that it can help us being honorable. And so for our daily is 830 in the northern district market. We have 1,350 for the silver box product that we is 14,800, which I'd love to remove 5,059 in 70. And there wasn't a Google other sometimes Sarah for this year's silver box product. So next month we'll see how today. Any questions on that? Helps further support progress. And so our art team is now twice a month. And new that will be helpful to us. And all of the on our team do I do the light. But every day wants to perform resolution team. So a little smaller there, but all the puzzle pieces of what's happening and then head and put it into one. So over here are planning, and in this section, we will talk about we need to be we need to update the policy and procedures, update the team. I developed update for the person and planning page and computer. And then through that, in terms of planning, we also do explore to further understand. We also discuss creating a safety for our education for the purpose of larger incredible communities. And also we discuss establishing historical help support for that conversation that we have for them. And that was when the Sandpoint urban renewal plan and was establishment. So it was a way that we and Sarah is practically so thankful for them to the process with Sandpoint so therefore it would make some supplements and to be collecting for projects that we that sort of be and then some yes, and there's many things and then we have some And I think it would make sense if I were to about my first so I will certainly, of course, the larger commission will always be important decision making, but I think that I'm changing and with regards, I would like to further share what needs to be repaired, what needs to be replaced, and rewritten. In fact, Randy wanted to learn, but some methods seem to be completed, at least that was the same. The coding format very like eating it. And I think it's all yeah. And so right now, I'm working on history of income, and I'll be working with the future team to fundraise. And then we have on our website our programs and products. So there are programs that we put in place like programs, so low-hanging fruit. We have to design supply and and that one organs will not go see and an sister program is neighbor street city allows and then the others would be the community. This is not a sustainable to things better. We have the silver box program, which is urban alley, and then STC rock projects. So historically, that was the vinyl box utility boxes, and that was a great way to celebrate utility boxes. What we're looking to do is take that funding to prevent with that to things which would be not very easy in the school programs. And then city projects around the world, there's opportunity for development in the city of Sandpoint. There's civic space for development. So there's 4 different applications civic safety before, and there's improvement into bicycle racks and public art. So if someone wanted a bicycle rack in the middle, we can go and pretty detail someone certainly. We also have city development district and so that's certainly us and then we have all notes that are public and private. So this is kind of like the whole world over here, and we can start with books or every program that we feel thumbs up. So does anybody have any questions about so steps will be given what we so we'll be to creation partnership with this program and things are in place. And so we really for this year. And I didn't have insurance because being able to really pleased with the program is all set up children and so creation things will have all of the people for them. So and they have two artists. Even from children who have artists and people that will support them too. So one of them will be a Yeti, and that's for the children. The other one is like a moose with for two very children. That would be yeah, so we have to get to part of the creation and the responsibility. I love that collaboration. These are probably the constantly very celebration. Great, that's for sure. Taylor is the event of the and the city because different is for any but it's the way to really bring it up and have to be clean. So we'll see how it goes. So now he's more provided for the and then the author will the song opportunity to share some of their stories and then we'll go off. And I always think it's really important as well that art, breath is very large, right? So, I think that the artist probably is going to be confident, so supported by the and then not review the feelings of the time. And this to clarify that this second that Hannah is also excited to be once the whole story. It's a little sensitive, but I believe Grace, who has a so the gun one thing that I mentioned now, like I'm living my own network of like here's some suggestions. And so we actually more than I get to this conversation that I'm pointing at because some of the I created, we talk about the historical points and I'll go back to that when we get to that point. But some of it on all of the different planning effort that adhere to historical position. And I have the link here for the competition and then this next to how to done. So essentially, with the balance of the with how I'm excited to use because aid in the Sandpoint. We don't exactly know what that would look like with the building and support our current aid. But that's the actually the difference that we're going to to further understand. But that is the help give us more of the vehicle to accomplish that. And then of course there's perhaps wayfinding making this a huge part of many don't know if you have any further side. We put together a team to edit that. So as we're looking to we find we have the whole food so I'm just going to go ahead and there is a final version that I do not have to share with you, but it will be presented tomorrow. I highly recommend reading from the food or you can watch it on YouTube. They're wonderful reading too. So we have the public art and made by food series. There's also a amazing lighting plan that works with there's deep detail about wonderful art programming and with others programming like different light show competition. There's Beat, which is a public arts program and that helps support public art producing. And then we get into the public art piece and we get tied back to so listen to us what was requested of them and kind of competition. So I think we're going to go here, getting to what we're going to which is really important. We're giving away different materials and ways to celebrate the open products, but also celebrated in current events. And then they also worked individually with different stakeholders that have been involved in the company for different professions about successful ways to get it. And then this is a very popular. So they are suggesting a community to local historic business is not this local historic business according to the state of Idaho is the only event that would provide protection for building with food buildings for food and this is a pretty amazing it captures all the way to the way from first all the way up to the historic point here we have the Sandpoint Event Center, which is all the way over to the left and down and partly. And we also have and the way that this is so important for our outline because this is a recommendation from the local historic district outline the next steps to be followed but it to that but one thing to think about and to understand is this doesn't mean that every building in this going to have to go through the process. It would just be the identified contributing points of harvest something in my case that I see people doing and then you'll also notice, so I'm just going to point out the commercial free is called a bubble, which is the current commercial zone, and you're doing a little bit of decommercial. But within that, you have two different overlay zones. The red is the first element for overlay specific, and so it's kind of a common set of design with height, setback, material that would be further understood, and then again, this to have and an example would be allowed for net movement and not the first time. Isn't the practice is very powerful? We do. So we have this focus and we have an action legislative process, which is expanded to the South Commission and the fact that yep, so that's and that study that was done in 2015 that will have support in this but the common municipality that is what needs to be recorded in the code so we always talk about that and often they get asked why is this many things hopefully it comes down to what we're even if the city wants to do there's only one and that's all paid and so cost certainly is it's going to be so you can start amazing all the things I feel like I'm just there's so many terms for right and they've done some really comparison studies and they I think a lot of people get confused like about this is not going to be they read right now we're 65 we possibly but there are ways to create self-doubt that makes you so they spend a lot of time hot research on studying And again, with the recommendation, this goes further to our own recommendation. This preservation team did a brilliant work in making sure that we're working with and then I got always additionally to be without the supporter. And recommendation, and in this goes into the different programs that there is also one of the things that really was happening was the river warriors is this incredible thing. So it's part of the culture that and they go on this journey about how Sandpoint can be one of our main places in the and this city huge starting that was so complete. The design team that involved for them and then there could be there could be like how this, but I think a great start would be for them to seasonal activities and district where there are other seasonal that can be to and then some history different things like big steps training around the things that really helps a lot with the early development that we can do and you can see on number 2 and number 3 those are thoughts those design and also the in this was the one to a lot of and how they were like who can be number so how do you how this all because we'll be working with the different next steps for creating. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah. Maybe to do that in this storytelling. And here's the list of there's been a lot of about you'll notice that Lady Liberty is there. We're not going to decide what happens to her. Maybe she stays, maybe she goes. And then the details of it. So we're not going to connect it to this documentary. Yeah, great ideas. And so the rewilding efforts as well. It also is going to be that it is complementary to all of the important recreation that's going on there too. So
very good. Any other questions?
Just a comment. I like how the different buildings downtown were actually identified as opposed to, you know, buying a building or owning a building and not knowing where on the scale we are. So yeah, I appreciate taking the time to.
Great information in all those pages.
Yeah.
I think we all should look at those and study those.
Yeah. And if somebody is buying a building downtown, they can look at that and know kind of what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
Also, you know, before we can actually put some restrictions on it and everything.
Very good. Any other questions? All right, then let's head on to, I would highly recommend everyone Zoom in or attend the meeting tomorrow.
The design team as presenters, they are
great,
incredible. Mark Sindel, who's with GGLO, who's the principal. I mean,
he's the one that had us all close our eyes at the beginning, right? Yep, I was sold.
To the Camas Festival, and I was like, oh yeah,
that's a showmanship thing right there.
I take notes and I admire him. So.
What time is their presentation?
Oh gosh, great question. Why don't I send you all a link? Council starts at 5:30, but I don't know where it is on the agenda, and I know sometimes you guys like to tune in during that particular time. So
usually I get sent the agenda, so let me see if I can find it.
yes. So speaking of that, Keely, and I think you mentioned this when you first got on here, and I'm bringing us all back to a reminder. If you go to the sandpointidaho.gov website and you go to get involved, and let's see.
Oh, she hasn't posted it yet.
She hasn't posted it yet. Okay. You can go to e-notifications. And then what you do is you just enter in your email address and your name, and then you can select what you want news about, which I think is really powerful, or what needs to go on your calendar. And so I have done this, and even as a staff member, because there's so much going on, for me, it's easier just to get the notifications instantly, and the reminder. So I encourage you all to do that with the things that are special interest to you. Okay.
Actually, it's listed as the last thing on the agenda, but the two things in front of it actually probably won't take that long. So the waterfront competition.
I tune in at 5:30 then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think those are going to go pretty quick. We've had pretty light council meetings. And then there's always public comment at the beginning. And I think it's really important to tune into that to understand kind of the heartbeat of what's going on for some particular issues. So, okay, 5:30 tomorrow.
All right, well, let's move on to 5F, the historic preservation team updates.
So this amazing team meets every Monday, and we've been working on a lot of different projects, but one of our biggest wins was finishing this ClearGov page. So just as a reminder, these are our landing pages and they're links. So I can send you the link. It can be incorporated into any document that you have in your website. So we have an arts, culture, and historic preservation link that talks about everything, but I created a separate historic preservation page that just goes on planning and zoning as well. So the intro is going to be the same. It talks about our commission, and I will get a bio on every one of you. It's just going to take me some time to do that. That's a winter project. And again, this is live. Then I have historic preservation and Sandpoint. This quote is, to me, really, really powerful. There has been a shift in the preservation organizations where it's not about buildings anymore. It's actually about more community and people and culture, which I think is very powerful. So I've been using this at like most of my presentations too, like planning and zoning, different things. But there may have been a time when preservation was about saving an old building here and there, but those days are gone. Preservation is in the business of saving communities and the values they embody. I think that's really powerful, and that goes back to that community character moment. And then on the next slide, there's this beautiful explanation of the why it's important to preserve our history, and whether it's economics, tourism, sense of identity, education, quality of life, sustainability. There are so many encouraging moments there. And then we do a little history on historic preservation and Sandpoint, starting from when that first National Registry District was established in 1984 to when we had our first Preservation Commission in 2003. And then current planning. So we talk about the important adopted to 2021, which is our guiding master plan. And then there's a link to accessing that. The visionary document, which is coming forth to council for acceptance. It won't be in adoption. And there's a link there to this. So this isn't the copy that's going tonight. It was the last version. So it's pretty updated. And then the comprehensive plan, which has been presented to council. It's been accepted from Planning and Zoning Commission, recommended to go to council. It went to council and council has tabled it. So one thing we need to understand about council meetings and holidays and everything like that, once they get tabled, it goes back to a new meeting. So depending on conversations and how many meetings some of these topics go, some of these issues can take a month and some of them can take up to 6 months to a year to be adopted. So it's just the municipality process. Plan for protection of historic buildings. I thought everyone asked me about this, so I decided to make a fun little graphic. So when we're talking about saving our historic buildings, what needs to be done? According to my leadership, the direction has been that we need to adopt the 2023 comprehensive plan, because that is the guiding document of all of our city, which tells us that we need to do what's in our master plans. The detail of the work is not in the comp plan, it's in the master plans. We need to accept the downtown waterfront design competition visionary document, which gives us the tools to know how to implement the actions of our master plan. And then we need to implement the next steps as recommended by the design team, which is to develop a local historic district with a dedicated ordinance. And then the last is the historic district and ordinance is adopted by council. And then the work starts on creating it, developing it. So that's where staff, myself and Amy Tweeten, our city planner, start working on changing code according to the recommendations of the consultant. Any questions on this? So this is all, I can send this link out again to you guys, but this is great information in elevator moments for you to be able to communicate with the public when they're asking these questions, or even share this document with them.
I've actually shared the link
So
with a couple of people just this week, and I think it explains a lot that people may not know some of these details.
I also put in common questions.
I think that was great.
So Caitlin, you had a great question. This is a nationally like every preservation conference I go to, they talk about how people think a national registry district is protection. So it's a very common misunderstanding. And so I talk about that here. special permits and design standards that historic homes have to follow. We don't have any. Is preservation more expensive than new construction? It's not. And you get better materials and you get things out of the landfill. So I could go on and on. And then we have, this is all stuff that we have on our main site, but I added it here. We talk about the National Registry Historic District, and it shows what the outline is. And then we also have individual registry properties. So again, even if you decide to have your property individually registered, it does not mean it's protected. So people still think that, oh, but can't we get it individually registered? Advantages of this would be like grant funding, but the process alone is about, the last one SHPO did, you hire a consultant to have your property go through the process, and that process with a consultant is about $7,000. So we definitely encourage it, but I've talked to quite a few business owners that want to know more about their property. And I've educated them on this, and they've kind of come back to me and said, that's great. I probably don't want to do that right now, but maybe for the future. But I definitely connect them to the museum, because the museum does such an incredible job creating research packets for commercial and residential properties to further educate individuals on the treasure that they have. And I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that. Your packets. Okay, perfect. I hate talking for anybody, so.
Do the museum packets, do people have to pay for those?
They do. They each take 2 volunteers about 4 months to create. So, but they're a lot less than $7,000. I didn't know that was the benchmark for these things.
And that was just, SHPO gave me that number, that one that had just finished not too long ago. Yeah, so it's definitely a value, and all that money goes back into preserving our history here. So,
Very good.
and they're amazing. So why don't you bring one
I can bring one.
next meeting and share that with everybody?
Are those things that you're saying, like people could do it about their houses? That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, they're usually a lot more successful with commercial properties,
Yeah,
just because there are more records kept for those,
Yeah.
but with residential, some houses we have information on, some of them are pretty thin, but we can give sort of like a neighborhood context or information about the style of the house, things like that.
Yeah, very cool. I've been wanting to do that. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's a great house.
It wasn't old folks' home.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They still live there.
Maybe.
Is that where we're gonna do the ghost hunting? Okay. Preservation resources. This is really, really exciting. So we just completed the pattern book, and I have a couple of hard copies on the table. But it's the pattern book on the bungalow, which is arguably like the foundation of all building styles. And recently in the ADU hearing about, where is it? I've got all these little windows open. The ADU hearing, we were talking about compatibility to our historic residential character. And what was super cool is we were able to go back to the bungalow and say, this is the why we encourage these characteristics for building style in Sandpoint. This is available through planning and zoning through PDF form. We have hard copies here. Feel free to email it to anybody. We're getting the word out. Everybody that has taken time to look at this is super impressed and excited about it. So I think as a city, we're truly celebrating our education and advocacy that you guys are doing. And I'm just gonna kind of go back to that ADU hearing. I think a lot of you have been following this, but the Historic Preservation Commission, the historic preservation team worked on identifying what compatibility means when you're talking about accessory dwelling units compatible to the primary structure. And through the 6 or 7 meetings that we had, which were super delightful, the commission had recommended 6 characteristics originally, which are notated here, that would be elements to make sure that are in code that could be reflected in characteristics that you need to have on an accessory dwelling unit. A couple of changes: we had added a gabled or hip roof, eaves that are about 1 foot, front facing windows, front porch and portico, contrasting trim, and cladding or a similar type of wood or wood-like. They ended up recommending, and I don't have it right in front of me, but essentially the recommendation that has been approved and is going to council would be, in terms of the design compatibility, and I can send that all out to you, would be compatible to primary structure through the roof, windows, and materials, or compatible to these 5-pack of characteristics. And the 5-pack is everything you see here except for contrasting trim. They were very hung up on contrasting trim or feeling too controlling. And I feel like it's like the low-hanging fruit element that really brings it together. So if any of you want to know more about this, please let me know. It's kind of a rabbit hole, but it's a huge win for us to be able to start recognizing Sandpoint's community character, its residential character in code. This is a huge win. And we'll see what happens as it goes to council. So I'll keep you all posted on that. So the team has definitely been working hard on finishing the pattern book, making sure that the historic preservation landing page is to completion, and supporting all the efforts that have been putting forth in planning and zoning and decision-making for accessory dwelling units. Did I forget anything?
I think you covered most of it.
Yeah. Next steps would be style guides that are complementary to the pattern book, but that talk about like the Dutch colonial style and a Victorian, and the characters that make those styles what they are. We're doing a lot of work. It's really exciting.
And thank you for representing at planning and zoning. You do a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. They're very exciting meetings. It's like just when you think it's going to go one way, it goes another.
Yes, Woody?
One note is that while we do have an interior page in here as a group or as a subcommittee, we felt we didn't have a role to play in the interior of the homes. And so, people may want to do these things as a traditional piece of what they do interior to the house, but as a group or a committee, they felt our concern was what's the exterior presence.
All right. Any other questions on that? It was fun to work on for sure. Thanks everybody on the historic preservation team for helping.
Excellent work. Beautiful.
I think with all these plans, like, I really appreciate your infographics that you have and like the timelines of everything. And I think that also helps with the community know where we're at, and that the community doesn't jump in after decisions have been made, or if they're actually seeing all the outreach and everything in the past. And I think if we keep that up with the different plans and the different things we're doing, other people are doing in the city, it will only help communicate that with the community.
Something that's easy to see, easy to understand, showing the steps.
Yeah, like, okay, we're getting close, but I can still get my input in. So.
I appreciate that feedback. Yeah, I think, you just have to, again, follow in terms of communication, what is, people are going to spend just a second trying to understand it. So like, you got to put like someone dancing, like this, They're like, oh, okay. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to figure out what makes people tick, right?
Mhm. All right, so let's head on to 5H, which is a placemaking opportunity.
Okay, so here's where the city is so thankful to have all of you and your support. So we have the Little Sand Creek Watershed Management Plan, which was adopted. Excuse me. Nope. It's the management rec plan. There's been a lot of planning with this, and Mike, you've been a big stakeholder on this as well. So this is the plan that I worked with Maeve on, and in one of Maeve's first projects, she did a beautiful job with to create this watershed recreation plan. And so this has to do with, and it's an interesting one because there's so many different stakeholders up in the watershed area. There's private developers, there's private residents that own property up there, there's public entities. And so it was a huge deal to be able to bring everybody up to the table to accomplish this. There have been some key elements that are put into place in here, and some visions and goals. And so the guiding principles are: maintain the water quality of Sandpoint's drinking water, ensure inclusive access to nature and recreation for all, respect flora, fauna, and natural characteristics of the watershed, protect public health and safety, and create opportunities to learn about and take care of the watershed. And I'm bringing this up because there's a lot of users right now utilizing the watershed, from really enthusiastic bicyclists to hikers, and then we're going to have snowshoers. And I mean, I'm not going to cover everybody, but there's a lot of user groups. And so what's really important is that we start identifying the trail names in order for safety. You know, this has to do with wayfinding, making sure you're not getting lost. And Maeve has asked that I work with individuals from my commission to hold a workshop to start working on naming these trails, which goes back to our master plan, certainly, with placemaking and wayfinding. And there's a beautiful chapter, multiple chapters that talk about education and going back to history and who were the individuals that used this, which certainly would be our local tribes. And so we have seen an opportunity to work with the Kalispel tribe and incorporating through signage and whether it's interpretive signage or wayfinding or all of it, some of the Salish names potentially in it. So I would like to activate our culture team to help support me in the workshop for the trail naming. And anybody who would like to in general, but I know Rick and Mike, you're on that team. Was that something that you'd be able to help me with this
I'd
workshop?
love to.
You gotta help me with the amazing bicycle enthusiasts. So we already have a group of amazing recreationalists and community members that want to be a part of this. So we have identified who the advisor group would like to be. And so essentially it will be a workshop, and then it will therefore go through the process. Does anybody else want to be a part of that workshop, or are we good?
Potentially.
Okay, perfect. Fabulous. Okay, so I'm going to start getting dates together, and I think we'd like to do this soon. I've had a huge desire to make sure that we start identifying those trails, and then I'll start working with you guys internally on what that workshop looks like, along with Maeve and other stakeholders that are involved, and then we'll put it together. Thank you guys so much.
Very good. Any other questions? Then let's move on to 5I, heritage trees.
Why not?
We ready for this? Too soon.
I thought we would have a whole house full, but apparently it didn't get out. So you guys are incredible, and I am always looking for ways that we can support the city and projects. And this was me, sorry. I talked to Maeve, who is our city forester, and also Amy, the city planner. about how we can furthermore support the Heritage Tree issue, because it continually is coming up at every council meeting and every planning and zoning meeting. And they said, Heather, that's great. I mean, it has to do with history, right? And according to the code for heritage trees, which we have, it's the our commission and the tree commission, which is not activated at the moment, to come together to do that. So I thought, well, we're here, we're active, right? Let's start figuring out how we can support this. They have asked you guys to help us go down the rabbit hole of defining what a heritage tree means. I don't think that's extremely
Can I ask
difficult.
a devil's advocate question?
Sure.
Do we think that, I'm just wondering if this is an issue now, or is this something that has been present in meetings for a long time, or just because of all of the ruckus that's been going on as of the last few months?
I would say that it's highlighted currently. Yeah. And it's been heavily dissected. This code seems to have been supported us for a very long time, but it's a hot topic right now.
I'm just wondering if the fervor is heightened right now for specific reasons, and might, I guess that's my devil's advocate kind of posing the question of, is it as big of an issue as emotions seem to be at this moment in time, in the long run, in the future planning?
I can't necessarily speak to that, but I think that's a really important question that you're bringing up, because I think a lot of times we have strong, passionate voices that are continually coming to meetings, but we always need to think as commissioners and councilmen about the community as a whole and what that looks like, and not just that one voice that's confronting you in the moment. And you are bringing that acknowledgement of that situation to the table. There's a particular dynamic happening with a development going on who would like to keep the trees.
In Traverse specifically?
Not Traverse.
Okay.
No, this is a separate issue.
Okay.
So we're actually having it come at us in two different directions. There is definitely all of the community input about the Traverse trees, but then there's also a separate developer that wishes to have some sort of, and this is not my territory, so I feel like I'm going to say the words wrong, but exception to the development, because he's looking to save the trees, is my understanding.
Interesting.
And what's happening is it's coming up at every meeting, and I'm watching and observing this. So I'm saying to myself, is there a way that our commission can help us have a path of moving forward on this?
I have two questions. One, do we know if there is a current inventory of heritage trees?
I was gonna ask if there was a definition.
Yeah, what constitutes a heritage tree? Age or?
Because I know they did the booklet, but I don't know if all of those trees are considered the heritage trees or. Yeah.
Wow, you just.
Yeah. I found everything in my bag.
My other question was, if the tree commission isn't activated right now, could the like the Native Plant Society potentially be a partner with the city on something like this in terms of identifying them if we don't have an inventory?
Those are all really fantastic questions that I can't answer. So my question to you guys, it sounds like this is maybe a rabbit hole that's too complex that you may want to go down, or do you guys want to get a small work team together to look at other examples of what cities have done, understand what our current heritage tree program looks like and what the definition is, and then figure out maybe a suggestion that you can put forth to planning and zoning and to council that would further support any issues that are coming up with heritage trees?
I would love to hear from a subject matter expert, like, I don't know, if Maeve would constitute as that, or the society, somebody from the.
It would be
Wow.
Maeve.
It would be Maeve, just because the thing that I'm running into where my resistance comes from is this idea of, I have no understanding of what a heritage tree is. And so if I don't, and I'm on commissions and I'm with the city, then how is anybody else in the community going to know? And so that's where maybe my emotions come in, is I want to make sure that we as a commission have the accurate information as to why it is important that these trees are saved, or if it's not, or if, does that make sense? Like,
Yes.
I want to hear from the horse's mouth.
So
if that
what,
makes sense.
so what would happen is if you guys are interested in supporting this project as a commission, I would have a work team of individuals that would like to workshop this.
Mm.
Within the work team, we would have experts come and we would explore in depth what our current code looks like, what other cities are doing, because this isn't a new idea. And what needs to be done, right? And then that would come back to our full commission. We'd have a further discussion about the findings. And then therefore, at the appropriate time, we could present it back to Maeve, who's the city forester or the city planner. And then they would put forth any recommendation on a definition. So through that process of the workshop, you would be educating yourself on what the history is. You'd be working with experts, and then you would make the defined decision. And the support that you would bring would be the history of trees. So like a historic building, we would set the criteria of what it would look like from a cultural and historical standpoint of how you would identify a historical tree. And then therefore, maybe it just gets tabled for a moment until a tree committee comes, or some community advisory committee, a CAC would come into play to help support it. But at least we would be able to have that foundation of the history aspect of the tree.
Yeah, I see it from that angle.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
because what's going to happen is that we have our leadership, right, our voted leadership in that feels like they can't make a decision because they don't have the information that they need. So it's stalling out things like the comprehensive plan and other projects that are moving forward. So I'm trying to figure out like what are some steps that we can do right now to maybe be a seed of a start to move forward. And I know these are big things, but we further understand things through research and talking with experts. And that's where your recommendation would come.
From your perspective and from your perspective, do you both feel that this is an important thing for us to tackle?
I think yes, ahead of getting another tree committee together. So right here, it says the 2009 Sandpoint Tree Committee has worked on this. This has been going on for a while. This is not a new, like you said, this is not a new issue. People have been wanting to preserve these trees for decades now. Can I read what they talk about? So they don't have a definition, but they have basic questions. So does the tree have remarkable or striking aesthetic presence? Is it unique? Is it a tree that has reached its potential without being significantly compromised by humans or the elements? Is the tree representative of a popular or useful species in our area? Is the tree easy to see from a public right of way? Does it have an interesting history? So there are some questions that can go, really delve into, is this tree worth saving? And like I said, it has been on our minds for quite a while.
And like Ellie's pointing out, a lot of the work has already been done.
Right.
So it's just coming in and further understanding it from a culture and community character standpoint. And then we're just providing the expertise to other teams at the city, so they have another path to be able to move forward on.
Thank you. You guys are my subject matter experts, the pulse of things, so that's why I asked.
It's hard for me to see meetings continually be like things being tabled,
Right.
because, and then we're kind of spinning out on the tree thing when there may be an easy way to move forward on this issue.
And I do believe eventually there will be another tree committee.
What's the history of the tree committee?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously they had a tree committee, decades ago.
We are a tree city, so we, according to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they
the-
can't use the history.
I've also clerked that committee, and at that point, it was a committee, and they council passed a urban forestry management plan, which requires a lot of code changes. And part of the restructuring is transitioning from a committee to a commission, and
Oh,
different criteria for the folks that are solicited to apply for that commission. So it's all on hold right now, and they're in the process of looking at those code changes. But it hasn't been like put back together as its brand new shiny self.
Got it.
It's in the dismantling and looking at it part, but they did approve the plan, so. But I just don't have a timeline on when they're going to put it all together
Yeah.
and open the application for that commission.
Makes sense. Thank you.
So the question is, like, do you guys feel like we have too much on our plate? Or do we have the bandwidth to have a work team that meets maybe 2 times to get a foundation down of research of the heritage tree world that could be ready for when that happens with the formation, or that city staff could take and be able to use information to help them find a path forward?
well, I
with
think
some
you're
of these
right. If
decisions.
we're getting our historic preservation stuff backed up because of the trees being in the way, then maybe we do have time for it because we can't go forward with anything else until we help.
That was a
This
big issue
along.
in the comp plan
Yeah.
that came up. So then it got tabled again.
And I think from the culture and historic side, it does fall here, or at least we can assist with it.
Right.
So that makes sense. And this is all public trees, right? You can't have a heritage tree on private
I
property.
think that some of them are in the right of way. I'm not an expert on trees, so Maeve will certainly be able to answer all of those questions. I believe, I can't answer that, but my instinct is that some of these are on private property, but they all tend to be in the right of way. It's a
there-
whole world.
So there is
Yeah.
a definition, okay, what is the definition of heritage tree right now?
Apparently there isn't one, it's more of like they have questions. that
No,
they ask.
there's a definition of a heritage tree.
Well, the other piece too is that booklet, I think I have copies. If you all want to start with just reading
Yeah.
what was done in
Yeah.
2009, I think might be helpful.
Yeah, I'd love one.
But I mean, that book is called The Outstanding Trees, right? So,
Yeah.
which is kind of like that, they've already, it seems very close to already assigning them as heritage trees.
Mhm.
But I haven't read it front to back myself, but I do have copies if you want to come in.
Yeah, I'll come grab it.
Bless you. So it might take me a few minutes to find it within code. And I apologize, I should have brought that with me. But again, this is hey, commission, would you guys like to explore the world of further defining heritage trees, as in like what work has been done? What have other cities been done? And is there any information that we can collect that could lead to a recommendation to anybody that needs further support with this issue? It's not us taking on the issue. We, in the end, the ultimate product would be just helping support a definition of what a heritage tree is.
I'd definitely be willing to put a couple meetings into learning more.
Yeah, I think it's really important.
Just because I'm feeling like this is to quote Heather, people need a warm hug. And maybe this might be the warm hug olive branch, pardon the pun, to help move things along and feel like those voices that are feeling unheard, maybe they get to be heard a little bit more. So if it's the warm hug we need, I'm here for it.
Love it. Who would like to be on that work team? Perfect.
Tree ladies.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I just
Caitlin,
understand that people have a lot of
you-
emotional connection with trees.
What do you?
Well, and seeing
I could
the
add
whole
probably
Traverse
some-
deal,
on my historical
like I thought I
perspective.
was on the outside
Well,
watching
you've
it.
dealt with this in other cities.
And then actually like the realization, like, oh, culture and historic preservation. Like, oh,
There's
is that on
things
us?
where I'm like, and I
Yeah.
have to back up now.
Yeah.
I didn't even
So,
put that together. so
yeah,
it's like,
so,
bad
I
at all
guess-
angles, I don't wanna be a part of it.
yeah, it makes sense for us to have a voice or help out.
Are you
Oh,
interested in
support.
a deep dive on this or more of just like, at the larger commission level?
Larger for now,
Perfect.
yeah,
That sounds great.
yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. So I'll start getting that work group together and gathering resources to help support the work team.
Very good. Any other questions on the trees? All right, let's move on to 6A, which is around the room, commission and staff, general announcements.
I'll put one for BGH. Cheryl Rickard, as you all know, is retiring in December after 37 years at the hospital. She's having her retirement party this Friday at the Heartwood Center from 4 to 7. If you wanted to come say goodbye, tell her thank you for all of her work. That'd probably be wonderful for her. So, thank you. Of course.
Our band is playing on November 25th.
I have to get tickets.
And it's, as always, partially,
You guys
Canada
aren't
Fund.
sold out, right?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Best show of the
Tickets are
year.
flying.
No, and last year we went, oh, get in line, don't go like when the doors open. Kristen and I made that mistake and we were up in the balcony, couldn't find a seat and like everybody's dancing up front. We're just sitting there going. I know, I learned a lesson though.
I
Get in
contemplated
line.
having it be a seated show, but it's just so complicated. It's just like,
Yeah.
I can't, I'm the only one that really knows tickets right now, so I'm glad I didn't, because I'd be trying to like be backstage and then becoming like, Caitlin, there's a problem with e-tick. I don't let that. I keep telling everybody, this is my Shook Twins hat. I'm not working at the Canada tonight.
Love it. Thank you. And you have new leadership.
Yes, yeah, we hired Rob Talbot as
Whoop,
TD.
That's so
and
exciting.
I'm very excited. We've already been working together quite a bit and he's just has all the right priorities and we are very aligned and I'm very excited.
Yeah, you guys seem like a dream team.
Yeah, it's feeling really, really symbiotic and really good.
What's the position he was hired for?
Executive director.
Fabulous.
Exciting news.
Awesome.
I took my family to the haunted conservatory.
Yes.
Very scary, but very fun.
Really?
No, it wasn't totally scary, but it was really cool. It was fun to see the place and the different rooms and have a more intimate look at the building and what they've done in there. It was cool. So my girls had a blast too, so.
Oh, I also forgot to plug, Hannah's not here, but their new exhibit, she partnered with LPO Rep and 2 of my designers did the tree for one of the exhibits. So I'm really stoked about that. I need to go see it. I was so mad that I had to miss the opening of the event, but I'm really excited to see the exhibit. They've sent me pictures of like, as it's been being built and they did a really good job. I'm really proud of them.
All right, well, on that, let's wrap it up. Great
Thank you.
meeting, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.